Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Get Geek podcast, where we celebrate geek, nerd, and pop culture. Each week, we deliver the best analysis for fans, by fans, on anything related to movies, TV, video games, comics, anime, and manga. We talk geek. And now, here's the Get Geek podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new episode of the Get Geek podcast. Let's just get started. Everybody, introduce yourselves. I'm Walt, by the way.
I don't know. Depending on the day, this might be AJ.
Who am I wonder. Who am I?
I?
What the heck is that?
Who am I?
What is that?
Who am I?
What is that?
I have no idea.
What the heck was that high pitched thing, bro? I was like,
The heck was that?
I don't know. Eli, and Eli is here.
All right. Well, before we get started, let's get our disclaimers out of the way. But before we get started with that, why don't we tell the audience what we're going to be talking about so that they can get excited before we start disclaiming the crap out of everything,
Yeah.
because that's like the boring
Right.
part. But
Yeah.
So,
we kinda-
spoiler alert, full spoiler territory. Today we will be talking about Broless friggin' chocolates.
Broless freaking
I
chocolates.
don't even know. What that
Yes.
Eli knows what I'm talking about. But no, seriously, we're going to be talking about The Suicide Squad, which premiered maybe 1 or 2 days ago.
is. And we're going to be talking about Suicide Squad, which premiered, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Because remember, there
Yeah,
are
that's yeah.
You tricked me there.
Yeah.
You tricked me there.
There
Yeah, I
was
was about to be like,
You had me
Huh?
in the first half, bro. Not even gonna lie.
we were talking about Suicide Squad 2016 versus the Suicide Squad 2021.
Or I should say the second half, actually, because
David
Yeah.
Ayer versus James Gunn fight.
and we're also
Now we'll talk a little bit about DC in general.
DC, yeah, DCU,
So-
how it's going and where it's going.
There you go.
Yes.
So now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to get into the other part where we're going to be talking about our disclaimers. And I'm going to make this real short because I'm pretty sure none of you want to hear this, because who cares? We want to talk some DC stuff.
Yep.
But anyway, just to let you know, we are still recording remotely because unfortunately this pandemic doesn't seem to be going away. So just to keep everybody safe, everybody is recording separately. But that doesn't mean that our sound quality is going to be reduced by any chance, because we're doing the best that we can to make sure that we continue to give you guys the high quality that you expect. And with that being said, the best way that you guys can help us and our little podcast here is just to remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And make sure you tell all your friends how great this little podcast is.
all of them.
Yes.
So that being said, let's get started.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's
So-
go.
Let's go.
As AJ was saying, this past Friday, what's the exact date? Friday the 6th, HBO Max premiered a little movie called The Suicide Squad. It took about $185 million to produce. And this is not only being shown on HBO Max, but it also is being released in theaters. And we're recording this on Sunday. So we have the benefit of knowing a little bit of how the movie did. And for, like I said, $185 million movie, the suits at HBO Max, the suits over at Warner Brothers, the suits over at DC probably are not jumping for joy right now, because the box office, at least domestically in terms of the US for Suicide Squad, stands as of this recording at $26.5 million. Yeah, that is
Even
20.
even sorry, what even with HBO Max
No. I'm
subscriptions
just
or
talking
whatever?
about box office.
Oh,
This
so
is box
the
office
Wait,
figures.
how
movies.
did it take 185 million? Just
Well, it's a lot of special effects, a
Dude,
lot of
Starro alone.
stars. You know,
what the
it's a
heck?
lot, a lot of stuff.
How much is your average Marvel or DC movie?
Well, the Marvel and DC films run usually anywhere between 100 and 200 million dollars.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that's a
So,
lot.
it is expensive. So this is going on the higher tier of
Yeah.
movie making and stuff. So $26.5 million across 4,002 4,002 4,002 North American movie theaters.
4,002.
That is not going to be something that they're going to be jumping up for joy. If we're looking at the international box office, it's bringing in another $35 million from 70 overseas territories. So altogether,
It's like
we're talking
freaking
about
$60.
$72.2 million that it brought
Oh,
in the box
oh yeah.
office globally.
Still a little around the halfway mark.
Well, you also have to look at it this way. It's $105 million just to produce, but there are also added costs to that. So for them to be able to just break even, they have to far surpass $185 million,
Mm.
because you also have to think about marketing costs and things of that nature. So I think for them to break even, you're probably looking at somewhere around $250 million, just to
That's
in that
harsh.
range, just to get to where they need to be to say that, you know what, we're good. It doesn't seem like it's going to get there. Um,
Uh,
and just to compare it, since we're doing the comparison this week to the first Suicide Squad back in 2016, and again, different set of circumstances, because
Yeah.
back in 2016 we didn't have a pandemic to contend with, but that one kicked off with $133 million, and it ended its global run at $746 million. And that is a film that was rated 26% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is far different from this movie, because this movie was actually better received than the first.
well, again, it's only been 2 days, right?
Yeah, but you know what? Especially with the way things are going with movies and the box office, if you don't really make your bones on that first week, you're gonna have a hard time.
Well, I
It's
mean,
not gonna increase, just because people are kind of still tentative of going to movie theaters.
yeah, but
And you also have the fact that it's opening on HBO Max, where a lot of people will probably say, you know what, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I have the ability to watch it at home on TV. Maybe it's not the same experience as being in a movie theater, but at least I can watch the movie.
I mean that's true. But it hasn't even been a week.
It's not
It's
going to
still
get even
if it
close.
just
First
made
of all, I'd be surprised if it gets even close to 185 million to begin with.
Okay, I'm not.
yeah.
I'm not saying it's gonna get to 185 million, but
It's not gonna make that much money
It
because
really
if
isn't.
you really think about it, the opening day and the day after that should be the win. Should be the one that's making the most money. And from there it's not gonna go exponentially up. So it would just be and in this case it would just be a steep decline.
Yeah, just
It's not gonna
just to
work
put
out.
it, and again, this is more when we were back in normal times. Movies make their money that first weekend, and generally you have a drop off, usually around 30%, maybe even more, by the second weekend. So they're not going up; they're usually going down.
Yeah.
So usually, what you want to do as a production company, as a movie distributor, is you want to make sure that you retain people that second week, because you're not going to gain more. So the movies that do better usually retain more of the audience in the second week. The movies that really don't usually lose a lot of their audience that second week. And so given the fact that the Suicide Squad opened up with 26.5 million, I would guess, and this is just me guessing because again we're in a pandemic rules. You're probably looking at a box office next week in the range of about 10 to 12 million dollars. That's usually what you're looking at. It might be a little bit higher, but quite honestly, I really don't think that's going to be the case. This movie's going to lose a lot of money. I think we've pretty much established that with all the facts that we've just thrown out, which is a shame because
It's the
as we're
markedly
going
better
to
movie.
as we're going to get into, and I think all of us here are in agreement, it was a markedly better movie than the first one.
It was an awesome movie.
Okay. So and again, if we look at Rotten Tomatoes, not that Rotten Tomatoes is
Yeah, it's not
the line that we want to use for everything, but it's a good start. The first movie back in 2016 had a 26% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, whereas again, as of Sunday, the Suicide Squad, the 2021 version, sits at 92% Rotten Tomatoes.
That's
So
really good.
you're talking about close to a 70% difference between the two films.
Yeah.
And I do believe that it shows. Um, let's start out. Well, let's start out like this. And again, I think we're all in consensus here. But AJ, what did you think about the Suicide Squad 2021? What is
So
your general impression of the movie?
it was amazingly and as bizarre as you're gonna find this. It was much more believable than the
What?
first iteration of Suicide Squad.
What?
Yeah, you'll see why later.
I think I know where AJ is going with this, but I'll let him explain.
Oh, you want me to get into it now?
No, we'll get into general impressions and then we'll get into
Yeah,
it
so
deeper
that's my general impression right now. So I'm just gonna leave it there.
later. Okay.
What?
So E,
Left us on a cliffhanger.
there you go.
Oh God.
What do you think about the Suicide Squad?
My general impressions. I mean, to be honest, Suicide Squad is started out really awesome and it ended really awesome. I don't know what I was.
You sounded like you were about to say it
Yeah.
ended horribly, and
But
I
I
was
said
about
it
to give
ended
you
awesome.
some major side eye.
Yeah. But whatever. Suicide Squad was a really overall great movie. For starters, it had a really awesome comedic sort of thing. You didn't really see the story until it started getting deep into the story. And it was honestly, I liked the transition between how they almost how they intertwine the comedy with the story, which is not a lot of which is not what you see in a lot of movies. And they did it practically flawlessly. So yeah, overall it's good.
So
Okay.
very good balance.
My quick impression of the Suicide Squad. And I'm going to keep on doing that because we have to make sure that we're separating the two because they're two very distinct and disparate films. The
Yeah.
Suicide Squad by James Gunn, and I'm going to repeat by James Gunn because when I first heard of the Suicide Squad, it's going to get annoying after a while, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, when I first heard about the Suicide Squad, instantly my mind went back to 2016 and how excited I was for Suicide Squad with Will Smith and
Will Smith?
yeah, Will Smith.
He was
What?
Deadshot,
He
Eli.
was Deadshot in the first one.
No.
Yes.
He was. You know, so I was excited about it because the trailer was so awesome. But then actually watching the movie, and for those of you who don't know the backstory of Suicide Squad 2016, David Ayer was the original director of the movie. He directed the movie front to back all the way till the very end. The trailer came out, which was ironically done by a company called Trailer Park.
Oh God.
And WB, in its infinite wisdom, decided, you know what? Those guys made a really awesome trailer. Let's let them edit the movie. And we've seen what a disaster that was. Hence the reason why, in some places in the dark corners of the internet, hashtag release the air cut is kind of percolating in those corners. So I went into this film with a little bit of trepidation just because of the knowledge of knowing what happened previously. James Gunn to me is a fantastic filmmaker. He's made some crazy and crazy awesome films.
Yeah.
And he's the type of guy that knows how to handle ensemble casts. I mean, we've seen that uh, well done in Guardians of the Galaxy on the Marvel side.
Mhm.
So I had a little bit of faith that James Gunn was going to knock this one out of the park, and he did, for the most part. It's not a I'm not going to say it's going to win, the Golden Globe Awards or the Emmys and stuff like that. But in terms of superhero movies, which the Academy tends to shun,
Yeah.
I think this was very well done. He has an excellent way of mixing comedy and gore
Oh God.
and bloodiness
No.
and silliness.
Yeah.
And he does it in such a really, really good way. And a lot of the times I was just sitting there laughing and smiling to myself watching this movie, despite the fact that there are heads blown and guts ripped out and, other types of things. This was a really, really fun film. It
Yeah.
really was. So um, I guess we can all say that we all had a good time watching it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Definitely.
The story is pretty much one that if you know Suicide Squad story, you kind of know the story here. Amanda Waller is the one that's always pulling the strings, and she is picking violent criminals, violent comic book villains from the prison Belle Reve to create this Suicide Squad, which is basically, a group of individuals who, if they die, who cares? But they're doing it for the greater good. And the way we're going to control them is we're going to implant a bomb in the back of their neck. And if they decide to go off book, we'll blow their heads off. That's basically what it is. And similar to the first one, where she created a team of who was in the first one? Diablo,
Harley
Deadshot,
Quinn,
Harley
Deadshot,
Captain Boomerang,
Captain Boomerang, Rick Flag,
Rick Flag.
What
You
was
had
that?
Katana.
The dude who died
Katana.
in like 2 seconds of the movie.
Oh
The
yeah,
dude with
I
the
forgot.
with the zip lines.
Yeah, I forgot what
Yeah.
his name was. Wasn't Croc Killer
Killer
Croc?
Croc, yes,
Hey.
definitely.
So that was the first team from Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad has a very, very different team. The only two people that really come back from the original movie, aside from Amanda Waller, is Harley Quinn
and Rick
and
Flag.
Rick Flag.
Wait.
No, that is it.
Boomerang.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yes, Captain
Well, I
Boomerang.
guess-
And again, we're going to tell you ahead of time,
Yeah.
spoiler alert, because we may spoil some elements of the movie. So if you really want to know about the movie, go watch the movie first, come back and listen to this podcast so you can hear us go crazy on it, right? But so three characters come back: Rick Flag, Harley Quinn, and Captain Boomerang. But you add brand new characters. You add Bloodsport, you had Polka Dot Man, which was a
Oh.
really, really cool character, despite the fact that everybody was like, Polka Dot Man? Really? You got John Cena playing the role of Peacekeeper,
Maker.
Peacemaker.
Yeah.
Peacekeeper.
I think it's Peacekeeper.
No, I think it's Peacemaker, no?
All right, we're going to find out right now. And Peacemaker, you are correct. So it's Peacemaker, Weasel,
Oh yes.
right?
Fucking Weasel.
Yeah.
You had the guy Javelin,
Javelin.
right? Who else are we missing? Oh,
The Detachable Man.
TDM,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So you had TDM. That's TDK.
The
The
detachable
detachable kid.
Yes. He was TDK. Later on, we find out his name is the Detachable Kid for reasons that are quite obvious. And that's the basic team, right? Am I missing anybody else?
Ratcatcher.
There was
Ratcatcher.
Ratcatcher 2.
You also had the guy who was played by the long white hair. He's been in a lot of films. Oh, God.
that dude,
Yes. Hold on. I'm gonna give you all the. So you had
who the heck even
Ratcatcher.
was he?
Hmm?
Who was he supposed to represent?
He was kind of like a Deadshot kind of character, but I don't even remember his names.
I'm gonna find out right now.
We'll explain why.
Savant,
Savant
played by Michael
yes.
Rooker. You also had, like I said, Captain Boomerang, Javelin. Oh, Mongol. We forgot about her.
Mongal.
Mongal. And we also forgot about Blackguard, played by Pete Davidson.
Oh, God.
Blackguard.
Yes.
He's the guy who walked up like, "Hey guys, remember
Oh,
we had a
God.
deal?"
Yeah.
And then proceeded to get blasted in his head,
God.
you know. And just so that everybody knows, Weasel is played by Sean Gunn, James Gunn's.
It looked like he was.
James Gunn's brother. Who,
Oh wait,
Sean.
Calendar Man made an appearance too, right?
Calendar Man?
Who the hell is
Or
that?
the dude with the numbers on his head. Was that not Calendar Man?
It could have been, maybe.
Who is
And Bell
Calendar
Rev.
Man?
No?
Yeah, it could be. It's quite possible because there was a lot of characters that were in Belle Reve, right? So that's the basic team of the Suicide Squad. We don't have any Joker, so to speak. We do get a mention of Superman,
Yeah, Calendar Man.
Superman.
It was,
There you go.
It is Calendar Man.
and that's Sean Gunn.
Oh, that's him.
So there you go. So Sean Gunn playing dual roles.
Two roles.
You know, so Joker does not make an appearance. Did they even mention him in this
Well,
one?
she mentioned that she needed to be in healthier
Okay.
relationships.
So there was a
Yeah, he
vague
could
reference to the Joker.
Yeah.
We didn't have Batman. We didn't have an appearance of Batman, but we did have a mention of Superman. And that is the reason why Bloodsport was in Belle Reve in the first place, because he shot Superman and put him in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet. Okay.
Yes.
Bro.
For all you Doctor Who fans,
Could you forget?
right?
Hey.
You do have him playing as
The Thinker.
What is his name again?
Peter Capaldi.
Yeah,
Peter
Peter
Capaldi.
Capaldi. Peter Capaldi. He makes an appearance. He's kind of, well, would you say that he's the bad guy? He's kind of.
He's a tertiary villain.
He's like the mastermind, but not quite, because he's there, but he's not there for very long, and he doesn't do a lot of stuff for very long.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like the mastermind of the whole thing, but he's not the real threat, quite obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the movie surrounds itself around Amanda Waller bringing this team together because there is a threat on Corto Maltese, a very famous island in DC history lore, right? And so she sends the team, but she sends them in two pieces. One piece is the sacrificial lambs, and the other team is the one that's actually there to infiltrate the island. So the first team, we get that was like one of the first scenes of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we see them effectively wiped out.
Yeah.
The only two survivors from that is
Harley
Rick
Quinn
Flag
Rick
and,
Flag.
and Harley Quinn. And there's another character, but we'll leave that for later.
God.
You know, everybody
Yes.
on that team dies a spectacular death. I mean, let's. Who do you think died the best in that first scene?
Honestly, I thought Mongal was going to be a lot more durable, given she's like the daughter, the sister, the cousin of Mongol.
Oh,
And that's
God.
someone who fights Superman.
Yes, sir.
She just gets burned to a crisp
That was horrible.
because she went to say, I'm gonna handle the chopper. She gets onto the chopper and she's barely holding on to it for her life, and she ends up crashing it, but also killing a few other members that are on their team.
Particularly one that was very surprising, right?
Yeah.
I was literally shocked when that happened because I thought he was going to play a bigger role. And spoiler alert again for people who haven't seen the movie, stop right now, go see the movie. But we are going to spoil it right now. Captain Boomerang.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Like literally, he was a big part of the first movie, and he's unceremoniously taken out in the first 20 minutes by the helicopter.
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of the essence of the Suicide Squad also.
Oh, but
But-
he is like they don't even have a body to go back for
No.
because
they do.
They
They have
do.
they have the hand sticking up with the boomerang in the.
no, that's true. That's the only part that was left, right?
Yeah.
yes.
That was
So
wild.
he goes out. I happen to think that Blackguard goes out very, very quickly because we quickly realize that he actually betrayed the Suicide Squad and made a deal with the Corto Maltesian army. I guess that's how you would say it.
Maltesian.
Maltesian.
Or,
Yeah.
And Harley even had a thing with Corto Maltese, right?
yeah.
Are they Corto Martes, Martarsians? She even did it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the army of Corto Maltese. And so he goes out very quickly, gets his head blown off. But I think my favorite
His
character.
face blown off.
Yes. I think my favorite character that hit the beach before he died, not Javelin, not even Weasel, because Weasel died jumping off the plane and
couldn't swim.
couldn't swim. And the joke
Did anyone check to see if Weasel
Exactly.
could swim?
that was kind of a running joke, right? Because Bloodsport didn't like rats, and yet they had another supervillain there called Ratcatcher whose powers was to summon rats, right? Did anybody find out? Running joke, right? But I think my favorite character had to be TDK.
Oh yeah.
TDK.
That was horrible.
So they're on the plane. They're saying, "Why do they call you? What's your name?" TDK. What does it stand for?
It's my name.
It's my name. TDK. He's like, "Oh, okay." But later on, we find out he's the detachable kid, and we see the reason why because
When he goes into battle, he detaches his arms and sends them out to, I guess, distract the Corto Maltesian army.
now
And it just-
you would think that those arms would probably do some damage, right? Like they had some superpower to be able to like crush larynxes and destroy skulls, but instead James Gunn decides to give them a very special power, the power to slap.
Just whacks the dude around, and it's not even like a punch or anything. He's just getting like freaking. Oh god.
It's like a cat
Horrible.
fight.
Yeah. Right. Oh man, that is
So
horrible.
as you can tell, this is a very, very fun film because James Gunn pulls no punches, quite literally, right? And he really, really has fun with it. So that's the opening sequence, and we get through the whole thing, and finally at the very end, they find out that the real main bad guy.
Is Starro the Conqueror.
Now, Starro the Conqueror is very interesting in this iteration, right? Because it doesn't seem like he's a bad guy altogether. Because at the very end, he does make the comment, I was just happy floating around and watching, right? I think what James Gunn very, very astutely did was he made him into one of these things where because he was incarcerated for 30 years,
Yeah, 30 or so years.
I believe, by the Thinker. he became the bad guy because, revenge was on his mind for being incarcerated and being treated the way he was, because he was, quote unquote, he was a prisoner.
Yeah.
He was a prisoner there. So the battle with the kaiju
Yes.
Starro the Conqueror um, was a very, very interesting one.
Oh, how could we forget
Oh, did we forget someone?
Nanawe,
Of
Oh,
course.
Nanawe.
King Shark?
Nom nom.
Nom nom.
Yes.
Another great character, that he he was in a movie that was full of comic relief. He was the main source of comic relief,
Oh,
basically,
God.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's another guy. Did he didn't.
He didn't die.
Okay.
No.
So
He's like a
um,
he's close to indestructible
yeah.
because the way they wrote him, there's a very good chance that he's like a demigod. That he's descended
is
from
true.
like a shark god.
That is true.
So like anything they threw at him was kind of like just, oh, okay.
So we get the battle with Starro, and of course they win, but there are casualties again because James Gunn again doesn't pull any punches, and that I think that's one of the things that I really, really loved about the Suicide Squad, is because there was a sense, especially in that movie, that everybody's life was on the line.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, there were some deaths that really shocked me. I think the biggest one would have to be, and again, spoiler alert for everybody, the death of Rick Flag.
McFlag.
Because
Flag.
that was one of these things where he's kind of like the main guy
Yeah.
of the Suicide Squad. He's been in
Yeah.
both movies. He's been the leader of both movies. And to see him die was one of those things where I was like, oh crap, James Gunn is really serious about this movie, and it was a shock because
It was.
it kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest. You know that when you're fighting and stuff, things happen, but I never really expected that to happen. What do you guys think?
That was the whole thing with Rick Flag was like it was shocking to me, and it was like almost kind of sad because like bro was literally trying to he was literally trying to like
He was trying to do the right
do
thing.
the right thing when the whole mission was to basically cover up everything that was going on.
Right.
And he tried sort of like pushing that into the light, everything that was going on, the whole operation, which we'll get to in just a moment,
Mm-hmm.
just to explain it real quick. But anyway, yeah, it was pretty messed up, and it was insane with the X-ray. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he really went full Game of Thrones with this.
That's
like,
a good analogy, actually. That really
yeah,
is.
like
Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, that kind of thing. There
And
are stakes.
yeah, and it's so sad. It's that much because at least in the movie, it looks like the person who killed him is actually dead, but it turns out the goddamn son of a bitch is still alive.
And there's a reason for that, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Yeah, so it was shocking and surprising to see that happen. And I'm going to say this, so one of the things that I really, really liked about the movie, and everybody really did a great job in their roles,
Yeah.
and stuff. But I think a special shout out has to go to the interplay between Peacemaker John Cena and Bloodsport Idris Elba. Those two
Yeah.
guys, when they were interacting with each other, that was pure gold, right? You guys
Yeah.
agree with that?
Definitely.
I think that was one of the highlights, especially the highlight when they were trying to go rescue Rick Flag, because at some point Rick Flag does get captured off the beach by the Malto Cortesian,
Maltesians.
and sadly enough, we realize they were captured not by the army, but by the rebels,
by the freedom fighters.
by the freedom fighters who were fighting against the Multo-Cartesian government, which sadly, again, in a great subversion of the scene, um, when quote unquote the Suicide Squad quote unquote goes to rescue Rick Flag, they go through the camp, basically killing everybody. Bloodsport and Peacemaker, right?
They have a
Trying-
showdown.
Trying to one up each other.
Yeah.
And I love the line that Peacemaker said, right?
He's like nobody likes to show off, and then Peacemaker goes, yeah, nobody likes to show off unless what you have to show is really
dope as
dope.
F.
Yeah, dope as, and then Bloodsport is like, damn it, he's right.
So the great thing is, after they pretty much wipe out all of the soldiers in the camp, they finally find Rick Flag, and lo and behold, he's not being held prisoner, but that was actually the rebel camp. He actually knew the person who was the leader of the rebels. Soul Soria, right? Was that the name of the girl?
I don't remember. Sorry.
But he's having tea with her, and the guys are like, what are you doing here? And she's like, how did you get past all the soldiers? Why didn't they tell us anything? And they're like, well, I don't know. We didn't see anybody. Who knows? And,
They're all dead.
and they're all dead. So, I mean, I like I said, I thought that whole, again, James Gunn is masterful at what he does, and he did a really good job. Who are your favorite characters of this movie?
It's Peacemaker through and through.
Peacemaker.
Why do you like Peacemaker so much?
Because he is like such a conflicting dude. Like, sure, he's kind of that stuck-up a-hole who will like do anything to protect his country, but he also has that part of him that doesn't want to do it. Like, there's a part where, okay, so again, spoiler alert, Peacemaker is the one who kills Rick Flag.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he says, buddy, don't do it. Come on. I like you. You like me. We just had a good time back there. But I will do what I have to protect my government. Don't do it. That's kind of what I like about him, because he will give you the fair warning, because deep down he really doesn't want to do it. But he ends up doing what he has to do anyway.
Right. And he had a similar scene with Ratcatcher.
Yeah.
Where Ratcatcher had the drive that was going to expose Amanda Waller and the government for the experiment of Starro the Conqueror on Corto Maltese. And again, he really didn't want to shoot her, but because of, like you said, his duty to his country, was willing to do it despite the fact that he didn't feel like doing it. So yeah, he's a very conflicted, and he's funny as all heck in this movie.
That's the other thing. So like, it's really supreme credit to John Cena for being able to pull off those two at once.
Yeah.
Like,
and
he was off the wall.
Can I ask you a question? The difference between John Cena Peacemaker and John Cena F9 Toretto. What was it? Nick Toretto, I think is his name.
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Or whatever
whatever
his name. But the difference in acting in both, right? You could there's a marked difference between what he had to do in F9 and what he did in the Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Again, that's more a consequence of what he was working with.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was off again. Like I said, off the wall with Suicide Squad, and also credit Bloodsport too. Idris Elba. He was also really good in his role.
Bro, that freaking homemade elevator scene was freaking amazing, bro.
Not even that.
Oh.
Like, when his daughter comes to see him, you expect this whole little heartfelt scene, like, okay, this is what he's fighting for, but it just ends up with like a cursing match between you. I hate you, I hate you, f you, f you.
Yes, that was awesome.
Again, James Gunn, masterful subversion of, you know. Eli, who was your favorite character?
Honestly, I'd have to say John Cena again,
Oh, yeah.
and
Peacemaker.
especially with his freaking bathroom looking, toilet looking helmet. God, it was.
I like how there was
That
one
was
scene in
amazing.
the movie when they were when Rick Flag was fighting
Yes,
him.
I know what you're talking about.
They used the helmet to show you where they were
Oh,
fighting.
yeah. That was awesome.
Not even
bro.
that. Dude, you came here in your tidy whities. How old are you?
Damn.
Oh my god.
Well, you know what? I'm going to, as much as I like certain people, I'm going to go in a different direction. I like Polka Dot Man.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
he was surprisingly interesting.
Yeah, he was one of these guys that kind of came under the radar in the movie, and I didn't expect him to play as big of a role that as he did um in the movie itself. I mean, he played a pretty pivotal role, right?
Yeah.
Um and he was kind of like the emotional center of the whole movie also,
Yeah.
in a sense, right? Harley Quinn was awesome,
Of
right?
course.
But
Mhm.
she and I think this was about the most Harley Quinnish that we've seen her in a bit, right? But
Yeah.
like I said, Polka Dot Man was a character that really surprised me, um, and I love the fact that his trauma was all directed with his mom, and I love the way James Gunn really personified that trauma with
Oh,
his
God.
mom.
Oh, that was so weird. Oh, bro.
Just to give you guys an idea, 1 minute you're looking at a kaiju-sized Starro the Conqueror, and then another minute you're looking at a kaiju-sized version of his mom.
And all he wants to do is just kill his mom.
Bro,
I
the
mean,
most cursed image was King Shark, but with his mom's face. That was horrible. What the hell?
I mean,
Oh, man.
he was really something in this film. And you know, Mitch, is it Mitch?
Mitch. Yeah.
Who's Norman?
Don't tell me you guys forgot Mitch again.
Oh no, it
No.
wasn't Mitch.
What
It
was his
was
name?
It was Mitch.
no, it wasn't Mitch. It was something
Was
else.
it Mitchell?
No.
It wasn't
Oh,
Michael.
God. It was oh no.
This is something that we need to find out because
You need to remember
Oh,
his
no.
name, for God's
he
sakes.
was again another pivotal character
Oh, God.
in the movie. But he was the driver. He was the guy that kind of he was the one that drove everybody around for the rebels, right?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, what was his name? What was his name? What was his name? Milton.
Milton.
It
Yes.
wasn't Mitch. It wasn't Mitchell. It was Milton.
Yes.
Milton had a very unceremonious end to
That was horrible.
his acting career in this movie, in his role. Mitch was kind of the guy that was there
Milton.
to kind of help out the Suicide Squad. You know, he was a rebel for the Corto Maltesians. He worked with the leader, and he was the one that got them into the place where Starro the Conqueror was, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Jotunheim.
yes, Jotunheim, ironically, right? It was interesting because as he passes, as he died in the film, the only person that even knew he was with the team, but two knew what his name was Polka Dot Man, and he took his death to heart. And meanwhile, he was like, "Well, Milton just died," and Harley Quinn was like, who's Milton?
Bloodsport is like,
he's
Even
literally
Bloodsport was like, "Who's Milton?"
exactly.
I thought he was in the car, and then Harley Quinn is like, who the hell is Milton? And it's just like,
And Milton
what?
was literally walking right next to
Yeah.
her, the entire
He
time.
got blasted with like a shotgun or something.
And Milton got another pop in the movie because she goes to Bloodsport after everything is done. He was like, "Hey, Milton, we did it."
Oh, God.
And Bloodsport's like, "My name's not Milton." He's like, "Are you sure? We just talked about that."
Yes.
So a lot of great
Yes.
moments.
Oh my gosh.
Let's wrap up the Suicide Squad. I'm gonna say that it was an awesome film. It's a film that I don't think it's gonna be a film for everybody, right? Because it's very very bloody. It's very very gory. Some of the jokes are off color and stuff. So this is definitely not really a superhero movie for kids. I think we can all agree. I think it's rated R, obviously,
Yeah.
for obvious reasons. Um, and so I think if you're into those really subversive type movies where you know you can handle crazy to the 100th degree, then you are going to absolutely love this film. If you're a little bit more moderate in how you take your superhero movies, maybe um, you wait for the TNT version where they take out a lot of stuff and whatnot. But overall, for us, I thought it was a fantastic film. What do you guys think?
I agree. 9.5 out of 10. Whatever the heck you want to do.
Yeah, that was definitely an awesome movie. 9.3. There you go. Yeah.
I'll give it an 8.5.
8.5.
Yeah,
What?
it's a very good movie. I'm not gonna put it in the same realm as, excuse me, the Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. I'm not going to put it up there with Wonder Woman and Shazam and
you're right.
things like that. But it's definitely one of the better DC movies, especially given DC's past history. Which brings us
Speaking of
to
DC's past history.
which brings us to
Ah.
the other part of what we were going to discuss. The comparison between Suicide Squad 2016 and Suicide Squad 2021.
The Suicide Squad.
And AJ kind of highlighted one of the reasons why 2016 didn't work. And maybe you want to elaborate a little bit more on that right now.
So the reason why it's more believable is because
Despite the fact that we have a starfish alien kaiju.
yes,
God. And a polka dot man. Just saying that name is horrible enough.
Yep.
in the 2016 Suicide Squad, they end up fighting the Enchantress.
What?
The Enchantress is a very powerful magical being, which is think just it was a good example. It was a good comparison. Think Doctor Strange, but darker and more
Yeah.
broodier.
Yeah.
And a woman.
I don't remember seeing.
And so, sure, you have characters like Katana, who only have a sword, and Diablo, who's kind of like an incarnation of the devil, I guess.
Yeah.
Those are the only two members of the Suicide Squad that could feasibly keep up or do some modicum of
I
damage.
wouldn't even say keep up. I think they would probably last maybe a minute longer than the other characters, right?
Exactly. And they killed Diablo off before you could even get to Enchantress proper.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you have this all-powerful magical being versus the likes of Deadshot, Harley Quinn, the Killer Croc, uh, who else? Or did the Killer Croc live to fight her? I don't know.
I think a lot of the people from the main group survived in that one. I think you lost your first two. I think there were two characters that you lost at the very, very, very beginning when they were being introduced, and then from the main team, I think only Diablo was the one that found his end at the end of the film. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody else survived.
And so basically, you have these people who don't have any powers at all fighting a being that should theoretically be able to just snap its fingers and wipe them off the face of the planet. But
It's
somehow they beat her.
it's basically Hawkeye fighting Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet. That's kind of
No.
in a
Hawkeye
sense.
fighting Thanos with just his bow and arrow.
What? No,
Well, yeah.
Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet.
No, because they don't have anything resembling an Infinity Gauntlet.
Well, she had that machine that she was trying to activate at the very end of the film, right?
But that wasn't something they used to fight her.
No, I
No,
know.
no.
I'm saying the comparison is a Hawkeye fighting a Thanos that has the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
I
that's
thought
what
you
I
said Hawkeye was wielding the
No,
Infinity Gauntlet.
no. I said
Oh,
Hawkeye
okay.
fighting a Thanos with an Infinity Gauntlet.
Sorry, I got turned around
You
there.
know?
Yeah.
That's basically the comparison that you're kind of making with the first Suicide Squad.
I don't remember the movie.
It was
It was not a realistic situation.
like Harley Quinn. Wasn't there a point where Harley Quinn was fighting the Enchantress with a bat
What?
at the very
Yeah.
end?
And then she switched over to Katana's sword
Yeah,
and was able to basically go, "Oh yeah, I'll join you." Oldest trick in the book. You're dead now.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah, that
It was very
basically-
unsatisfying.
It was unrealistic. There was no if you want to look on the face of it, the Suicide Squad, all of them should have died, and Enchantress would have continued doing what she was doing without even breaking a sweat. And the fact that the Enchantress in that movie chose to forget using magic and start fighting with hand-to-hand combat
What?
made no sense
Wait,
whatsoever.
what?
Yeah, she went all Loki like and started using like swords to kind of. I'm gonna stoop down to your level for a little bit.
What?
There was a lot. There was a lot to like at the very beginning, especially the way that they introduce the characters, right? But once you got past that introduction, that movie went downhill very, very quickly. And the whole point of the movie was really to save Amanda Waller.
Yeah,
That was the
For the most
purpose of the
part.
movie. It wasn't even to stop the Enchantress, who was ready to. She was working on a world-ending device, right?
yeah.
That wasn't even the Suicide Squad's mission. It was just to get Amanda Waller out of there.
Really?
That was the whole thing. So, that movie failed on a lot of levels. Notwithstanding the fact that I don't think we really did see the original vision of the movie. But you know what? The point of the matter is, even though David Ayer did not finish technically the movie because he did not edit his own film, I think there was enough problematic things within the story of that film that would have left everybody with a very bad taste in their mouth at the very end, because it just didn't make sense.
And then you also factor in Superman is in this continuity.
Right.
Where the hell was he at that time?
Mhm.
And you know what? Thank you, James Gunn, for giving us a believable reason why Superman wouldn't be showing up to fight Starro the Conqueror.
because he's in the ICU.
That was like almost like a. I'm not gonna say a diss to the original, but like, yeah, you could tell.
Like
that.
he thought it out.
Yeah.
and believe it or not, Superman was actually supposed to be in the film, and they kind of James Gunn had to pivot away from that because Warner Brothers didn't allow him to put Superman in the movie.
Well, thank God he
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
do that.
Yeah, but he was actually supposed to be the main focus
Oh
of the
no,
film.
No,
But
you dodged a bullet there,
yeah,
dude.
no, and like you said, he found a thoughtful way because out of all the superheroes in the DC universe, Superman would have been the one able to get there in time for what was going on in that place. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you think of Batman. Batman is still kind of like a underpowered superhero because he relies on technology. Wonder Woman again, even though Wonder Woman 86 kind of
84.
84,
Nobody cares about 84.
right,
Yeah.
but exactly, but it showed that she knows how to fly despite the fact that every other film in the DC universe has never shown her to be able to have the ability to fly, right?
Yeah, like even in BVS, which was current time.
Right, exactly. She did not show the ability to fly. So, out of all the superheroes in the DC universe, Superman is the only one that would have been able to make it for the events of what happened in the Suicide Squad. And James Gunn, thankfully, thought, like you said, thought of a way to make sure that Superman. You couldn't ask the question, "Where was Superman?" He put that out there right at the very beginning of the film. Superman is
Picture.
out of the picture. Don't ask the question, right? Um, Suicide Squad 2016 was an extreme disappointment, and it, it I can't even there is nothing you can say to give it to put it on the same level as the 2021 film, right? I
Yeah.
mean, the
There really
introduction of
isn't.
Joker in that film,
Wasn't he supposed to be the main villain?
right?
What?
And they took that out of there.
That would have markedly improved things already.
You know what you could have done in that movie? Just gotten rid of Enchantress altogether and made the Joker the main part of the film.
Exactly. That's
You
a
know?
much more balanced fight.
And again, you wonder how badly this editing was done because one of the things that Jared Leto was complaining about after the release of that movie was that there was a lot more that he filmed that was not shown in the movie. And so, to your point, there is that um, there's that notion that he was supposed to play a much, much, much bigger part in that first film. Um, it was just a very disjointed film, you know. In watching it, I think I watched it again just recently, and it was one of these things where it's like, you know what? Sometimes you watch a film and you dislike it, and then you watch it again, and with age you kind of start thinking, okay, well, maybe that kind of makes sense, maybe I can get with that, maybe this wasn't as bad as I thought it was. No,
I don't
it's still
even.
as bad as it was,
I don't
you
even
know.
remember it. To be honest.
You need to see it again just so you can know
No.
how cringe you.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So there are very, very, very thin threads between the two movies. And, you know, similar to DC Universe fashion, right? Which they've kind of discontinued the notion of the shared universe, right? You kind of see the same thing going on with here, where the only threads to the first movie is the fact that Amanda Waller is back, is the fact that Captain Rick Flag is back, is the fact that Boomerang and Harley Quinn are there. But other than that, there's real no connection. There's not really a connection to that first film, right?
No, not really.
Oh, and Belle Reeve.
Bell Rev.
Those
Well,
Belle
Bell
Rev.
Rev is a constant
Right.
in their story
But
to
those are
begin
the
with.
only things that you can say connect to the first film. I don't even think they mention the first film in any way, shape, or form, right?
Well, I mean, maybe when Because wasn't there kind of like a, yeah, we've lost guys along the way. Maybe that can
I
allude to
guess.
guys like Killer Croc and the ones who survived, like Deadshot, maybe. But it's
Well,
kind of a shame because I like Deadshot in that movie.
Hmm.
I don't remember Deadshot.
Yeah, he was a good character, but you know what? You couldn't have put him in this film because Bloodsport kind of plays the same
Yeah,
role, you
that's
know.
Yeah.
yeah.
So to have two of the same type of characters, and he even mentioned it, right,
Well,
when they were going
technically, you already
recruiting,
do.
right? Exactly, when they were recruiting people, the thing that Captain Amanda Waller said about Bloodsport was like, well, you know what? He's anything that is in his hand is a weapon. Blah 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 blah. And she almost gave the exact same speech to him when she was describing Peacemaker, almost word for word, right?
Word for word.
And that was the thing where, you know, Idris Elba's character Bloodsport said, "Well, why is he even on the team? He's exactly like me," you know. So that's probably the kind of thinking that they had with Deadshot also. If we're going to introduce this new character Bloodsport, why do we need Deadshot? He does basically the same thing, except you can say that Bloodsport's armor is a little bit cooler,
Yeah,
All right,
definitely.
yeah, I'll give you that.
right?
Yeah.
And the things that he can do with that armor, you know, it's very reminiscent to kind of like
Star Lord.
Star Lord,
Yeah.
um, Iron Man in what was it, Endgame, the one where the nano particles they form over him.
He did that.
Ah.
You don't remember the scene right in front of in Manhattan, right in front of Doctor Strange's apartment,
Yeah,
where
I know
he
about Iron Man,
builds
but
out
how
the
was
thing.
that Dead Sport? I mean, Bloodsport.
He's literally building
Yeah.
guns out of nowhere
Oh, but
with that nanotechnology.
It literally forms just in his
Remember
hand.
the very very end when they're fighting Star the Conqueror. He pulls out a handgun, and within moments, right, he adds like 5 or 6 attachments using that nanotechnology. It becomes like the BFG in Doom,
Yeah.
right?
His
okay.
helmet turns into like some sort of pistol thing.
Exactly. So he's got similar technology that way. You know.
Okay.
So yeah, there you go. I think there is no comparison to the 2016 one, unfortunately. And like I said, I wish there was as much of a push to release the Air cut as there was for the Snyder cut, because I do like David Ayer as a director. He's made some pretty interesting films. End of Watch being one of them, which is a great film if you haven't seen it. And I would have liked to have seen his finalized vision before passing judgment on how badly this movie was. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the interest is there the way it was for Justice League and Zack Snyder's cut. So we're probably never ever going to see it. But, and I hate to say it, even if we did, I don't think it would compare favorably to James
Yeah.
Gunn's version.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
um, and that leads us to the future of DC. And one of them is kind of directly tied to the Suicide Squad, because a character that you mentioned, they brought back from the dead, basically, right? And part of it might or might not have been because he's getting his own show, and I'm talking about John Cena's character, Peacemaker. He's getting a show on HBO Max, a series. I don't know if it's a limited series or it's a series that may turn into, a couple of seasons here or there. But they are planning on bringing him back. Now, the question I have for you kids: do you care to see a Peacemaker film, a series? Do
I
you
do.
think? Do you think that there may have been another character that you would have been more interested in seeing, kind of spin out of this film?
Mm. Um.
Like, I would love to see a Polka Dot Man series.
Yeah. Peacekeeper. What? Peacekeeper is it as
Peacemaker.
backstory? Peacemaker.
it does appear that they're going to go back in time.
Mm.
They're not going to go forward. But the fact that he's alive makes it easy for them to
No,
move
no,
forward
no.
if they need to, and they can bring him back.
I don't know. I would have like I'm fine with the Peacemaker show, but like there were other options that you could have gone for, like King Shark. I know that would be a little bit
King
weird,
Shark would
but
have been interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, that
it's an
would. I'll give you
interesting
that.
show.
Imagine King Shark kind of bumping heads with Aquaman.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
That would be kind of interesting. You know,
Because my only thing is with Peacemaker, look,
he
I feel
becomes
like
king of the trench.
oh yes, oh they stopped that movie.
Yeah.
Stupid, but whatever. Peacemaker, I almost felt like he was like one of those one-hit wonders that was meant to be there just for that movie, just to be there. And I don't feel that we need any more than what we have with Peacemaker, which is why I'm sort of iffy with the Peacemaker show. I'm fine with it, but there were obviously better options there. Um, that's
I
why
mean, as long as it's good, I'd say I'm all right with it.
I'm just afraid that they're gonna take away the backstory won't be that interesting considering he could have been he should have been a one hit wonder with how he was acting.
no, the way he
'Cause-
was acting, John Cena was acting his chops off.
Yeah, but no, I'm not saying that his acting was bad,
No, I know, but like
but
the way he was acting, it shows clearly there's more to Peacemaker than
yeah, but
we're
you and
initially
that
led to
I mean, well,
realize.
you understand what I'm saying, right?
I mean, you know, I think Peacemaker would do well as a character in a show,
Yeah,
but maybe not as a lead.
All right,
because
I'll give you
because
that.
he's just
Maybe.
he's just your regular dedicated soldier.
He
And
feels, you know what he feels like? He feels like a jacked up version of U.S. Agent.
yeah, that's why I'm saying there's not really
And
much to him.
as much as cool as U.S. Agent was in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, I don't necessarily think I need to see a U.S. Agent
Like
show, and so I kind of equate that with Peacemaker. Like Peacemaker is cool, and I think he'd be a good foil as a a part of a show, but as a
I
lead,
don't I don't even think so. I think he's fine just where he is. It's one of those characters that if you try and go overboard with this character, you might end up screwing it up.
All right,
What
yeah.
they have
See,
is fine.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know what show I really would have wanted to see? Bloodsport. Because you want to know why? The Kryptonite Bullet,
okay.
Superman.
All right.
By God, that is a storyline that they need to at least go through once. If not a show, then a movie.
that is a good idea. I mean, Bloodsport inherently looks like an interesting character because he doesn't he's like one of those he looks like a guy that could easily be an anti-hero.
Yeah.
You know, John Cena's character, they kind of delved into that territory also in this movie, but I don't know. I think there's more to Bloodsport's character
Yeah.
than there would be to John Cena's character,
'Cause-
to Peacemaker's character.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I don't know too much about Peacemaker,
Neither do I.
and so maybe that's kind of coloring our opinions here.
Yeah.
But it just seems that it's. I think they're just happy to have John Cena on board, and you know, kind of like they said, okay, John Cena, we're going to take care of you. We'll give you a show. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those deals. We're going to watch it, right?
I
If it
will
does come out.
definitely watch it.
I'm willing to watch it. but-
I'll put it this way. Even though it sounds like we're negative on it, I am curious about it.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what direction they take. And given the nature of politics in the US, there may be something that they can do with that
Something.
if they choose to go through that direction. I'll leave it as much as far as that. Now, so we have that, but we've got other things that are coming out in the DC
The
realm.
Batman.
The
They need Weasel
Batman
to come
being
back.
one of them. Black Adam,
Black
Shazam Part
Adam.
2. Um, they did say that Wonder Woman is going to get a third movie. So we have that.
Okay.
We've got The Flash that's coming out, which is
Nice.
going to really, really, I think, kick off the multiverse
Yes.
for DC. There are talks, and they are very, very early talks, but there are rumors that there may be a second Joker film. So, I mean, there's a lot of projects that are coming out. One of them that will not be seeing the big screen is The Trench, which was James Wan's horror
Aw,
film based off of some of the characters in Aquaman.
that
Who
sucks.
canceled it? Who canceled it?
WB did, you know.
Well,
So it was in
WB.
development, and about a couple of months ago, they said, you know what, we're not doing The Trench, so they stopped that. So there's a couple of things down the pike going on with DC. Now, the interesting thing, and I think maybe the smart thing that they've done, is that they are no longer trying to follow Marvel's lead in terms of creating this connected universe. I think they've kind of learned from their mistakes because they didn't have a very good and fleshed out plan on how to do that for the DC universe. They kind of rushed into everything, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I mean, we went straight from Man of Steel to BVS, which is something that, quite honestly, and I think we've talked about this before on this podcast, that's something that probably should have come down maybe in if you're looking at the way Marvel did it, that's maybe a phase 2 or a phase 3 film, right?
Yeah.
If you really think about it, because you have to take the time to introduce all the characters in order to care for a BVS.
Yeah. Like, I mean, yes, everybody knows the story of Batman, but you want to know better the story of this Batman, because the Batman you saw in BVS was not really like many other Batmans you've seen before.
Right. It's an older, more grizzled, more
Disillusioned.
disillusioned version of Batman that I think we've ever seen at least in film.
He
know?
killed people.
Right,
and
exactly.
the fact that they just forced him into the main plot of a movie that we had no idea that who Batman was.
They
It's just
forced a lot of things into that movie.
Yeah.
They forced. Well, we kind of knew Doomsday was coming,
but
they forced in Wonder Woman.
They also forced in Doomsday. I felt that there wasn't a need for Doomsday.
Yeah, you really could have just done Batman and Superman alone. You should have probably left Death of Superman for like a phase 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or no, phase like 2 or 3, because
Right.
then you could have, I guess, phase 4 as like Dark Side War or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
it looks like they're learning from their mistakes because, especially lately, some of the films that are coming out from the DC universe have been a little bit better, right?
Yes.
I mean, we're looking at the Aquamans of the world, the Shazam, Joker was a revelation.
Oh, that was
right?
amazing.
And we just had the Suicide Squad, which is a different movie that they've put out. Not their usual dour and dark film, right? This was a little bit more upbeat. And if you go on the internet, you'll see the meme of, James Gunn versus Zack Snyder and how they would have treated Starro the Conqueror, right? One of them super colorful and stuff, and very reminiscent of Bebo from DC's Legends of Tomorrow.
Oh, God.
Bebo is great. Come on. Bebo is awesome. You know who Bebo is, right?
Yes, I know who Bebo is.
The big
freaking toy thing that the kid had, which was
the stuffed
super
animal
size.
kaiju
Yeah.
that they had to fight. I think in
And
season
that they had
2
to
or
fight
3,
that they
right?
became.
They
Yeah.
fought. Wait, they fought.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Moloch?
Because they were They were fighting Moloch, right?
They were fighting Moloch the
Mullis.
demon with.
Yeah.
There was this huge time demon named Mullis, and they had to like assume a form that would be comparable to fighting him. And it was just these few stupid lines that were like, "Oh, but I can't help but not think of him," kind of like a Ghostbusters style
Yeah.
thing. And then all of a sudden, you see a giant plushie fighting this time demon. It's like
Bebo.
so off kilter. Like, what the hell?
That is one of the greatest
man.
things. And we were talking about DC TV, right? Earlier today.
Yeah.
That is probably one of the greatest things to come out of DC TV and CW.
Okay,
is
maybe,
Bebo.
maybe.
Come
okay,
on,
okay.
Bebo is awesome.
Fine. Bebo was okay, but otherwise,
So, so it looks like they're learning from their mistakes, and they're kind of creating a universe that is semi-connected, but not connected in a plot or story-wise fashion, right?
They're hanging on loosely.
Right, exactly. So it's all happening in universe, but it's not emboldened to a main storyline, right? Everything
Yeah.
kind of happens on their own.
Well, I mean, the only exception to that will probably be the Batman, because
And
you
the
already,
Flash.
yeah,
The Flash is going to be really interconnected to everything because they're bringing back Michael Keaton. There's rumors that Ben Affleck is going to make an appearance. So there's a lot. There's a lot going on there. We talked about the DC TV, the CW verse, the
horrible,
Arrowverse,
garbage and trash at
but
its
that
finest.
seems to be winding down.
What?
The
Good.
CW.
It's
other
ending,
things are
finally.
starting to take its place, and
What,
yeah,
wait,
I'm
what's
not
taking its
seeing.
place?
Well,
I'm
you
not
got
seeing.
Doom Patrol.
No, that's not on
Oh
CW.
no.
No. I'm saying in terms of DC
No,
TV.
I
right?
was talking about CW on its own
Okay,
platform.
CW.
Oh, okay. So you have Superman and Lois, which is actually doing pretty well right now.
I don't
right?
know.
Yeah,
A lot of people do seem to like it.
I don't trust a lot of
Batwoman, on the other hand, is kind of a lightning rod for that channel, that network.
Heard it was trash.
A lot of people haven't liked it. I've seen a couple of episodes. It doesn't seem to be one of the best, but I haven't seen anything since they changed the main, the
Character.
main
They
the
did.
actress Ruby Rose.
Why?
She
Why?
left the show.
She left the show. Oh.
yeah.
Right. And so now there's a new Batwoman. So that's a lightning rod for that network. What else is still left?
Supergirl.
You still have Titans, at least on their platform.
Well, no, Titans is.
Oh,
a-
well, I was talking about. Now I was switching
Okay.
off to DC.
You gotta let us know.
sorry,
you know?
sorry.
I'm talking about CW. So Arrow is done.
Yeah.
Flash, unfortunately, is still out there, but I've heard
Yeah.
Flash has really devolved into
It's a
really
smorgasbord of weird.
Power Rangers.
Yes, that's the
Like,
comparison that
I
people are
showed
making
you
to.
this clip just
I know,
yesterday.
Power Rangers.
Not even. They have
It's-
lightning speed force shurikens now.
I know. That's what the CW has. Oh God.
The Flash was one of these shows that really showed a lot of promise at the very beginning.
Debatable.
The problem with the Flash was
They kept telling the same story
Right.
over and over again.
they kept on going back to Reverse Flash, Savitar.
No, but it's
well, see,
not- no,
Savitar
no.
was different, but it was not the right kind of different.
It was-
Right, but they kept on focusing on speedsters.
No, but it's it's not even just that, and also they had Thinker. Thinker was okay.
The Thinker was a very, very interesting season.
I've never seen that season.
That was actually a very good season because you know what? It got away from speedster versus speedster, which is something that they kept on doing, especially in the early seasons. So, like the first season was all about Flash versus Reverse Flash, and that was a very, very good season. Second season, they kept on following those same things. You, like I said, you had Savitar, you had
Professor Zoom.
Professor Zoom,
You had the rival for a little bit.
yeah, you had the rival, you had the death Flash. I forgot what his name is.
The Black Flash. I
Black
think.
Flash.
But that was mostly in Legends, though.
But he started out in the Flash.
Well, yes, because of what happened to Professor Zoom.
But you're right. But the point is that the Flash kept on going back to Speedster versus Speedster, and the story was always Barry Allen.
Got to get faster.
Got to get faster. Got to get faster. And after a while, it gets very, very dull.
You know, it's a shame because if they parsed it out really well, I was kind of looking forward to Godspeed. But by the time it came around, I was already so disinterested in the Flash. I didn't even go back to it.
And the Flash has some pretty decently interesting villains,
They had Gorilla Grodd.
but they never focused on him.
Yeah.
He was more of like an auxiliary character.
They also had King Shark.
And again, never focused on
It
him.
became Monster of the
Ancillary
Week.
characters, those are characters that maybe you could have said we could build a season around, and especially at the very beginning, kind of change up the narrative where it's like Speedster versus Speedster all the time. Maybe Speedster versus Speedster, throw in a King Shark the next season, throw in a Gorilla Grodd the next season, go back to the Speedster if you want to do that stuff. There's enough characters in the Flash universe that you could have done all of that, and unfortunately they didn't do it. And by the time that they started to, it was a little bit too late because you know what,
Yeah.
everybody was disinterested, like you said, and quite clearly the writing has really, really suffered, and to the point that the Flash now, as good as it was at the very beginning, is now really an internet joke and a meme of itself, right?
What was that metric you gave me, Eli? It started off with like 10 million viewers, and then
That was Supergirl.
oh, that
which-
was Supergirl.
I mean,
okay.
I don't think nobody needs to really talk about that. That was horrible from beginning to end.
No, I kind
it
of
was.
disagree. I think Supergirl suffered when it was on CBS that first season.
Mm.
When they moved it to CW, they were able to kind of link it with the other shows, and that's where it got better. But it never really achieved the level that Arrow at the very beginning did and Flash did the first couple of seasons. It was a good show. It was never a great show.
It
And-
was a horrible
And
show.
there was some moments in Arrow where it really, really was kind of defining how you do superheroes on a TV network, and that went away very, very quickly, especially toward the end,
10
which is
million.
unfortunate.
10 million viewers to 1 million viewers.
as far as Supergirl is concerned.
Supergirl, which was
And
horrible.
Supergirl had Brainiac. Supergirl had some pretty interesting characters on it, and
Yeah.
it still can draw a crowd afterwards. One of the shows that was very good was Black Lightning. Black Lightning just
I've
recently
actually
finished it.
never seen that
It's
one.
very, very good show.
Wasn't
Yeah, I
given
hear
the
that.
attention it deserves.
Exactly, it really wasn't. And
The only good show of the CW isn't actually watched.
well,
That's horrible.
there's also Legends of Tomorrow. Which
That wasn't really that good.
Legends of Tomorrow was
Yeah, it was.
No.
Sorry, don't
No,
agree.
No, all the CW shows.
God, I
sucked.
still have to
except for
finish the
Black
season with Constantine, and I hear he stays on for another season.
hmm And I
No.
think Legends of Tomorrow is still ongoing because Constantine, unfortunately, is not coming back.
So something happens to him. God damn it.
But they've lost a lot of characters, so I'm not going to spoil it for you. But they've lost a lot of the main characters.
I think Wait, are you gonna
You know,
watch it?
you used to have Ray
I
Palmer.
am. Well,
Okay.
oh well.
I'm not
Oh
gonna
wow,
tell you.
he's gone too.
Well, like I said, a lot of the main characters from the original show. The original show was Ray Palmer. You
Oh
had
well, I
White
mean, I know
Canary,
about that.
You had Rip
Rip Hunter.
Rip Hunter. A lot of the Legends of Tomorrow that is on TV now is vastly different from the first season.
Oh well, I know that.
At
I
one point,
kept
Kid
up with
Flash,
it.
Kid Flash was on that show.
I did not know that.
So it's not a great. It's a super fun show.
I've watched it. I know what the show is, and I'm telling you, it's not as
So
good as.
Killer Unicorns is not a thing for you.
But it's just so over the top. Like they're
That's
trying.
the whole point.
But it's trying to be funny when it's cringy.
I disagree with that, but okay.
So Malik versus Bebo. Look, It's cool, but it's freaking weird. You're telling me that's
I'm
first
not
off,
gonna lie, that one felt really weird for me too.
look, it's fine.
George
And
Lucas was
but
on
it's
the show.
yeah, I know. Well, he was also
Yeah.
on Flash,
Godzilla was on the show.
Ishiro Honda was on the show.
but it's like
But they make great references
Yes.
to other things, which makes it.
I
all
think they
Winchesters.
even
makes it fun.
feature the Impala
Winchester.
at one point.
yeah.
Yes, they did. Supernatural was in
Yeah.
Legends of
But
Tomorrow.
the thing that I have the thing that I have with Legends of Tomorrow is that it's funny. Not
I think we have to watch it again.
No, I don't need to watch it
I
again.
think we need to watch it
really
again.
don't want to watch it again because look, to some extent, you could say that it's comical, but it's to the point where it just gets too tedious, too cringy. It's not fun to watch after a while, seeing all these crazy stuff with like freaking going back to sea. I swear to God, I could think of anything off the top of my head, and I swear to God, they already included it in Legends of Tomorrow.
Okay. Well, moving on from the CW universe, which seems to be closing down.
Good.
And we're headed toward the end of an era on CW when it comes to DC TV. A lot of the stuff it was supposed to move on to DC Universe, the app, but that has now moved on, and now they're focusing their efforts on HBO Max. Two of the shows that are currently on there is Doom Patrol, which just finished its
I have to
successful.
catch up on that.
It's 2 seasons so far, right?
I think so.
Yep.
That sounds right.
And we're getting very, very shortly, I think sometime this
Titans.
month, season 3 of Titans, which seems to I've already seen some of the reviews, and a lot of the reviews are positive. So it seems like Warner Brothers and DC in general seems to be going in the right direction,
With the exception of one thing.
Somewhat.
which is
Why the hell did they cancel Swamp Thing?
Oh, yeah, the only good show. The only
Swamp
good
Thing
show.
was a very, very good show, but we've discussed.
Yeah, I know,
the
but
reasons.
I still have to bring it up.
And so
I kind of do.
for the audience, Swamp Thing was a show that started out on the DC Universe platform. It was one of their main things.
It was amazing.
It really, really was a very, very well done. Probably one of the best DC shows that we've seen in a long time.
It really
Right?
was.
And unfortunately, we never were given a chance to see a second season of that show because the financial burden of creating that show was too great. And I think one of the reasons, and it's been a while since I've kind of jumped into this, but one of the reasons why the show failed financially wise was because the people who were making it actually had an agreement with the government of Louisiana, I believe, and they were supposed to give in some sort of financial help and whatnot. And I don't remember the specifics of it, and I can search this up while we're talking if you really, really want to find out. But that funding kind of dried up very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And so then it became a thing where it's like, okay, well, this is a very, very expensive show to make. I don't know if we can continue to do this. And basically the decision was made to kind of cancel it after season 1.
Such a shame.
They did port it over to CW. They were showing it first runs. I think they're still doing it right now. So if you do want to catch up on it, either grab the CW app or get HBO Max. I believe it's on HBO Max. It's definitely worth a watch, but like I said, you will be disappointed at the end of the season knowing that there is no second season coming. And that's the way that particular thing stands. I don't know of any talk to bring it back, but Swamp Thing was an excellent show. It was an anomaly at the very beginning of all the DC shows. But we've got Titans coming back.
Yep.
And Titans, like I said, early reviews are it is a different take on the Red Hood lore and mythology. Some of the reviews I read were that maybe some fans might be angry at the fact that they're changing the Red Hood mythology.
Okay.
There are some complaints, and again, we'll find out when we do watch the show, that the show is too heavily focused on Nightwing
Oh God.
and not focusing enough on the other characters of Superboy, Beast Boy, Raven, Starfire.
That's not good either.
So, but those are the first 5 episodes that were given to these reviewers. So there is a chance
Okay.
that that thing could change at the back end of the season. But those are the concerns that they've had with Titans. However, they still say that Titans is a very, very good show. That if you get past the changes that they make to the Red Hood lore, that you will find a very interesting and subversive story that's being told,
Okay.
and that the character of Robin slash Red Hood is fascinating to watch.
Okay.
So again, there seems to be a lot of emphasis on making these shows high quality, and we haven't even talked about the films. Well, we have certainly to some extent, but I think this consensus is that it does seem like WB is now kind of on the right foot going forward.
So it seems.
Somewhat.
Sort of tripping, but
So, AJ, you're a little
Yeah.
concerned. I can see in your face.
Because that doesn't sound like it bodes well for Titans, but then that last part kind of piques my interest. Like, I don't know. It's just, I mean, as long as the changes aren't like supremely drastic, I can kind of get behind a retelling. But
Yeah,
like,
I was going to ask you that question to both of you guys because, a lot's made about how the films, Marvel included, take certain beloved storylines and kind of change it to kind of satisfy their universe. Are you guys a fan of that? Or do you feel like you have to see the story the way you know the story in order to be happy? Or are you okay with kind of changing and tweaking the story so that you see something new, but in that same vein of that story, that plot line?
I mean, here's the thing: certain stories have their appeal in the themes that they deal with and what the characters kind of have to go through in order to reach the end, type thing. As long as you don't fundamentally mess with it, I'm generally okay. Like, you take Godzilla Singular Point for example. Sorry, I'm gonna sidebar here for a
It
second.
always comes back to Godzilla.
They're all still monsters. Where they come from is markedly different, but it was okay. It was believable, and it kind of brought some fresh air to the universe. It didn't change things too fundamentally, but you could still enjoy it. Now, take for instance a movie or a comic book you really like. Um, oh God, I'm
Secret
forgetting
Wars?
it. No, it's a Batman. They came out with the animated movie. It wasn't very good.
Hush?
Yes, that was fundamentally changed, was it not?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
That is not something you want.
But I think with that one, well, it's a little weird because that one, yeah, you're right. They did fundamentally change it, but I don't think that was a good movie to begin with anyway. Even if they kind of held with the storyline, I think, well, I don't know. Maybe it does have a lot to do with the changes that they made. Now that I think about it, you're right. That was something that I sat there, like Red Sun's another perfect example. They made minor changes to that film, the animated film,
It was still very much
but that was
enjoyable.
that was a very good film. And
Yeah.
I read both the book, the book, and I saw the movie, and I was fine with the changes. The changes that they made to Hush, oh my gosh, that was a travesty what they did with that film. So
Yeah. So as long as you can find that sweet spot, it's generally okay. What do you think, Eli?
I think that changing things is never really the problem for many movies. I think that it's always good to bring an original an original piece of content to the table, because um obviously it's not good to be repeating yourself, especially in a movie industry. Um so yeah, overall, changing things are fine, just as long as, like you said, doesn't make fundamental changes that really can not anger many fans, but as long as it's not too controversial, to some extent, you could still go for it. Um, and it doesn't really take away from the actual movie, the character, etc., etc.
And the story it comes from.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think tweaking a story, it actually can be exciting for some fans because you know what, you already know what the original story is like,
Yeah.
right? So basically, all you're doing is really just transferring from page to screen. Maybe changing it and maybe making some changes that make sense in the now, because a lot of these stories can be a little bit older.
Yeah.
So maybe modernizing it in a way kind of makes sense, but don't change it too much where it becomes something that's totally not what you're intending to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, so that's unrecognizable.
Right, exactly. All right, so I think we've gone long enough with this rant and stuff. I mean, we I think we've covered everything we wanted to cover today. We talked about Suicide Squad. We talked about the Suicide Squad and the direction that DC is going. Conversely, and hopefully they continue this upward trend. We didn't get the chance too much to talk about the newest animated films, but we're kind of behind in some of those also,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
We
Like
are.
Batman: The Long Halloween Part 1 and 2 have come out, and we have it, but we haven't watched it yet. Maybe we'll do that as a review sometime in the future and stuff, because that is a very important uh comic book storyline for Batman. Um but I think in general, I think we agree that 2016 Suicide Squad not good. The
yeah,
Suicide Squad 2021 really good,
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and DC Universe going forward pretty good,
Yes.
right? I think
Pretty good.
that's a good way to sum it up. All right. On that note, I will like to thank everybody for sitting around and either in your car or at home or on the subway or the bus, just taking the time to listen to us. And I want to thank you for your patronage and thank you for your fandom. And hopefully, we'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, my name is Walt.
This is AJ.
Eli.
And until next week, later, people.